So let's get to that breaking news right off the top from the White House. President Donald Trump escalating the trade war between the United States and China. So here's what happened. Just moments ago, he announced another round of potential tariffs after a tumultuous open on Wall Street. Likely you saw that while checking your 401k. On social media, the president read, if China does not withdraw its 34% increase above their already long-term trading abuses by tomorrow, April 8th, 2025, the United States will impose additional tariffs on China, or 50%, effective April 9th. Additionally, all talks with China concerning their requested meetings with us will be terminated! Exclamation point. Well, it's tariffs. You've probably seen it causing turmoil on Wall Street. We are watching U.S. markets play out in real time right now. The Dow down almost 2%, negative territory in the 700 range. So nosedive for the third day today as President Donald Trump really doubles down on his sweeping tariff agenda. As you just saw in that social media post, the Dow slipped 3.1% when markets opened this morning. The S&P 500 also took a tumble, dumping about 3.5%. Then just hours later, stocks took a positive turn in a sudden reversal. The Dow jumped 300 points. That erased a loss of 1,700. It's sort of like watching a horse match, right? So take a look at where we stand now. And this is here behind me on that small monitor. We also have CBS News senior business correspondent Ling standing by for more on the markets. But first, CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us to break down this latest development. We saw the Trump post on social media. What say you, Olivia?
Announcing an extra 50% tariff on Chinese goods starting Wednesday as a response to the 34% reciprocal tariff that the Chinese put on the U.S. after Trump announced a tariff on them. So let me just walk you through all of this, how we got here. Trump started his tariffs, escalating those tariffs on Chinese goods when he first came into office. There were two tranches of 10% that he put on China as a response to fentanyl coming across the U.S. border. Then, as part of the reciprocal tariffs that Trump said he was going to put in, he announced that 34% last week. Well, on Friday, the Chinese said, you get 34% too. We saw the markets react to that very poorly, and Trump, as a result today, said he'll ratchet that up to 50%. Counted it out, it's about 104% on tariffs on Chinese goods coming into the U.S. Quite notable, quite a lot of money. Think about all the things we get from China: electronics, clothes, some cars. All these things that are coming into the U.S. will now be tariffed at 104% starting Wednesday if they don't reverse the tariff they put on the United States. So a lot to watch out here. It's been a very busy morning so far as tariff news, Reed.
Well, and that's why I'm thinking tech stocks, Apple, Nvidia, and others. Olivia, there was also the headline out there that Trump was considering a 90-day pause in tariffs for all countries. That headline caused markets to sort of react positively, but then that was all erased when the White House swatted the idea down. What's going on there?
Well, you mentioned in your intro to us that little 300% rise in the markets and what went on there. What I can tell you what happened is that Kevin Hassett, who's the director of the National Economic Council, was asked by Fox News if Trump would consider a 90-day pause in tariffs, and he didn't say yes or no. He kind of said it's really up to the president. Well, some, eager business writers took that and said the White House is considering a 90-day pause in tariffs. That spread like wildfire throughout the, Bloombergs and Reuters of the world, everyone looking for that little incremental detail about these tariffs that could be positive news, that they could make good trades on. As a result of that, we saw that little spike in the market. Everyone started asking the White House, what's going on? Are you putting a pause on? They said, no, it's fake news. That's not true. It was a misrepresentation of what Mr. Hassett said. But you saw there how quickly the markets reacted to just a little bit of positive news about these tariffs. Just a pause for 90 days sent the stock market into green for just a short little while. That's how closely everyone is watching for just a little bit of news out of this White House of what they're thinking as the market continues to dive, and we're hearing all of this news about retaliatory tariffs, potential deals with countries, Trump talking with, several leaders, and what could potentially happen with all of these tariffs as they're set to go into effect, the reciprocal tariffs set to go into effect on Wednesday.
Yeah, that bump is sort of indicative of what investors are feeling, sort of a feeling that they're hungry for a pause there, and that little bit of positivity now wiped out once again as we look at the Dow. Also happening today, and we know behind you there are some meetings of consequence between Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Yes, they're going to talk tariffs, but also war rages on in Gaza.
War rages on in Gaza. There's still a lot of conversation to be had about that. This meeting was announced a little bit late last week. We heard about it from Israeli officials that Netanyahu would be coming here. Of course, the timing of it is certainly of interest. We know this happened after the announcement about reciprocal tariffs, where Trump said Israel would be receiving a 17% reciprocal tariff. Israeli officials expressed surprise at that because we've been having very open trade and negotiations and conversations between the U.S. delegations and Israeli delegations, and especially on the topic of trade. They're our closest ally in the Middle East region. So it's a conversation about why we're going to tariff and put economic strain on a country that is our closest ally, who is currently locked in a very deadly, costly war. So a lot of conversations about that, but we do know Netanyahu is here. He will be coming to the White House later today. There are pretty significant protests happening around the White House today. There are protests happening over the weekend here in Washington, D.C., as well as that war rages on, Reed.
All right, a drizzly day there on the White House lawn. Olivia, Rinaldi, thank you so much. So let's go a little bit deeper and continue the conversation. Let's bring in CBS News senior business correspondent Ling. All right, so we're going to be talking tariffs a little bit more, and let's talk about the market. Any response from the markets following President Donald Trump's social media announcement on China, that doubling down in recent minutes on China?
Reed, I think Olivia outlined it perfectly. You saw that blip in the market, that positive momentum upward momentarily when that Truth Social post came out regarding China. What will be very interesting will be to see overnight our time what happens with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China and what they say to respond to President Trump when it comes to this particular back and forth. This bilateral relationship obviously hangs in the balance here. But when we talk to small business owners across the country and people who are worried about their own investments, their 401ks, the issue is still a great amount of uncertainty, right? Because there's been so much announced over the past several days, the past couple of weeks with the auto tariffs as well. And what we see going forward is President Trump saying and using this as a negotiation tactic. So small businesses, including one candle company that we interviewed over the weekend, the founder of that company says, she'd like some clarity as to what she should expect when it comes to importing her supplies from China to make those candles that she sells not only here in the United States, but all around the world. And so that really is the catch here is people feel a bit stuck, not sure what to do. But when it comes to your 401k, financial planners, experts are saying, just hold on. If you don't need the money right now, just hold.
Right. And, that really leads to my next question, because if people are investing in the stock market, if their stocks are tied to tech stocks, what's the advice in the financial world, especially where those tech stocks are concerned?
Look, there are big questions as to what happens to the supply chain, say, for the iPhone and the price of the iPhone as one little example. What happens to AI and chips and servers and supplies on that front. But the real certainty that we know is that historically, the S&P 500 earns on average between 7 and 10% a year. And so if you hold on and you stay in, this does not so far feel as catastrophic as, say, a 2008 financial crisis. So the idea is stay the course, see what happens. What tariffs are actually implemented is still a huge question mark, right? And so if you continue to hold, financial planners and those who work, on your portfolios say, just try to remain calm. Don't open your 401k app. Don't look at it too much. Be aware of what's going on, but try not to make any sudden moves.
All right. And that's for people who have the benefit of time. If there are people who are nearing
That's
retirement
right.
or in retirement, that's a whole other ball of wax. Thank you so much, Jolene. Nice
Indeed.
to talk to you, my friend.